What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. As you can see, we're out on the water today, but today's video is going to be a recap of Lake Havasu. If you guys followed along and watched my Lake Havasu video, it was pretty rough. I missed the bite completely. It was kind of like feast or famine. It seemed like the guys that found them, and the guys that didn't did not. I literally caught 7 fish in 7 days in today's video. I want to talk to you guys about why I think that happened, what I could have done differently, and how I could have done better in that tournament. And I got to thank GCI Outdoors, 6th Sense Fishing, Waterland Fishing Optics, and Duo Molds for making that tournament possible. Each and every one of them played a huge part in making it possible for me to be out at Lake Havasu, fish that Major League Fishing event, and bring the content to you guys. So please support those companies. GCI makes outdoor chairs, tables, stadium seats, awesome stuff. 6th Sense Fishing makes awesome lures. Waterland makes awesome sunglasses. Use code LUNA15, save 15% off a pair of sunglasses. They got brand new mineral glass lenses, and they still have the polycarbonate lenses as well. They got awesome apparel and stuff like that. So head over to waterlandco.com, use my discount code LUNA15. And then Duo Molds, guys, if you want to make your own tackle like you see me do here on the channel and catch fish on your own baits like I do out on the water in my videos, head over to the Duo Molds website using my affiliate link. It's the only way they'll know that I sent you. So use that link, save it for future use. And yeah, guys, let's get into it. We're going to talk about Lake Havasu. So in order for me to really kind of break down what my game plan was for Havasu, I got to kind of give you my mindset going into it. And going into that tournament, I really wasn't sure if it was going to be a pre-spawn deal, if it was going to be a spawn deal. I knew they weren't going to be post-spawn, and if they were spawning, it was going to be like the initial flood of fish up to the bank. Now, when I got there, the weather was cold, it was windy, it was just not what I was expecting when I was thinking about this tournament in, you know, the months prior. Obviously, as I was paying attention, getting closer to the event, I could see what the temperatures were gonna be, I could see what the wind was gonna be, but these fish just didn't seem as far along as I thought. The water level was down, which I think it was dropping as we were going out there, as we were fishing out there, and I really think that affected some of those fish wanting to move shallow as well. But I started fishing that first day of practice, and I just was trying to cover water, trying to get a couple bites here and there. Managed to get a good one on a crankbait, and I was like, man, if this bite can continue. I was throwing a 15-foot crankbait. It was a Cloud9 C15 in the Jaint Juice color. I was like, if I can just go through, throw that thing around and cover water, I could probably run into 5 fish a day and have a good weight, because those are gonna be pre-spawn fish. Those are gonna be fish moving into the pockets, moving into the spawning areas, and I definitely could run into some good ones. I kept doing that, and that was literally the only fish I caught, I think, the entire trip on a crankbait. So day 2 rolls around, and I thought that I could maybe run some of those secondary points and get some bites, but that really wasn't the case. Second day of practice was still my best day overall, but unfortunately that only meant I caught 3 fish. I caught 2 fish on a hair jig, 1 largemouth was decent, 1 smallmouth was a rat, and then I caught 1 good fish deep in a brush pile and like 20 to 25 foot on a drop shot. That was a good fish, but it just wasn't consistent. I couldn't get bit on anything consistent. The secondary point thing didn't hold together, the reaction bite didn't hold together. It was just really, really frustrating. And day 2 kind of ended thinking that the hair jig might be the deal, might be able to drop shot deep, stuff like that, but it just wasn't really the case. So going into the 3rd day of practice, I was lucky enough to have someone to fish with, Bo McNeely. Came up to the first spot. It was a perfect little area, had a nice main lake point that led into this small spawning pocket. There's some deep water access, some tulies, a little bit of submerged grass. It was a perfect little area for those fish to set up right before they're gonna go lay their eggs. And I'm throwing a chatterbait in through there. Thought I got caught up in some grass, but I ended up catching about 5.5 pound largemouth, and I was like, man, hopefully this is a deal. I can just run water, find these little isolated little spawning pockets, and catch some of those pre-spawn females right before they're about to go lay their eggs. But unfortunately that day I started running around trying to do some of that. And that was literally the only fish I caught that whole day. I caught a 5.5 pounder first thing in the morning, and then nothing the rest of the day.
Oh man, that's a good one.
Dude, look at that. Look at that thing.
Ain't getting ready to pop, man.
That's a big one, man.
Oh, you got your video on?
Yeah, check that thing out. That's a fat guy. Up shallow, some grass. That's a big old fish right there, man. That's so rad. Picture time. And guys, I'm going through this practice part pretty quick, but I threw absolutely everything at these fish. I threw reaction baits, I threw crankbaits, chatterbaits, spinner baits, jerk baits, I threw jigs, I threw finesse stuff, drop shot, Ned rig, the fly. I threw so many different things and I could not figure out how to catch them. And then going into the 4th and 5th day, I really struggled, guys. It seemed to get harder and harder each and every day. I ended up going up in the river and getting the small fish. And then I think on the final day of practice, I went and looked for a lot of bedfish. It was one of the more calm days. It was one of the more warmer days. So I tried to go out there and try to find some beds. Didn't find anything. I found a couple, but one had one fish sitting on a bed. I didn't even go for it in practice because I had a late boat number and I just doubted that fish would still be there. It's pretty obvious in an obvious area. But guys, practice was absolutely brutal. I threw everything I could think of at him except one thing, and I think it really hurt me going into day one, and I'm gonna get into that right now. So one of the baits that I throw a lot at Lake Havasu in the past is a darter head with a small swim bait on there. It's something that I've thrown ever since I started fishing Lake Havasu, and it always gets me bites. But if for some reason I didn't throw it, I kept thinking I need to throw something different. I need to throw a bigger bait. I need to throw a big fish bait. I need to figure out something else. But really, guys, that ended up being something I think I could have caught a lot of fish on, especially day one of the tournament. And I'm just fishing day one, can't get a bit. It's like 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I finally get bit on one. And the reason I thought to throw it is because it was literally one of the only things I hadn't thrown all trip was that darter head. And I'm throwing it on a lot of the main lake points and stuff like that, and coming up, and the wind's just starting to go. It's midday, so it's not really the best time to throw it. And I get a short bite. Fishing a little bit longer, and I catch one, and then I'm fishing a little bit longer. I get one that follows it, doesn't eat it, but it follows, and then I go again, and I get another 4.5, 3.5 pound smallmouth comes off right at the boat. It was a pretty big bummer. It was really heartbreaking because that one fish right there would have bumped me up probably, I don't know, 20 to 30 spots in the entire event, all said and done, just because the fishing was that tough. One of the biggest problems I had with this trip out to Lake Havasu is I kept thinking these fish were further along in their transition into the spawn than they really were. Now, obviously there were some fish that were spawning. There were some beds out there. I saw some fish on beds, but overall these fish were not really wanting to do that. They were really close, and literally probably a week after we were there, they probably were full on spawning. But we were just a little bit early, and I kept trying to force feed and run into those fish as they were coming in to spawn, but I didn't fish those main lake points as much as I should have and figured out a way to catch those fish. And the darter head's a perfect way to be able to cover water, hit some of those main points, and catch some of those pre-spawn smallmouth. You can catch big fish doing that at Lake Havasu. So I really thought going into the second day of the tournament, I was finally on something. It was actually the first day I was excited to go fishing after the first couple because it just was such a grind. It was super tough every single day. You just felt like you were beating your head against the wall. But I felt like that darter head bite was gonna be even better going into day two because there was supposed to be even more wind, supposed to be some overcast skies, stuff like that. And I just thought that little swim bait was gonna do even better. So I tied that thing on. I had some other stuff ready to go, Alabama rig, couple other reaction baits, and just some other typical Lake Havasu stuff. And I really was gonna commit to that darter head, and I really thought going into the day I was gonna be able to catch a limit, and a good one at that. So after blast off, I started running around the lake, fishing all these different points and different areas I felt like I could get bit throwing that darter head. I really felt if I just put my head down, I'd be able to get a limit, and a good quality limit, because I think I had probably at least 15 pounds of fish that I physically saw during the day on day one that all were produced because of that darter head. Now obviously I didn't catch those fish, but I felt like if I put that thing in my hand, gave it a good go, I'd be able to catch those fish. Now it started off good. I caught a fish right off the bat. By like 8 o'clock I had a fish, and then it was just like crazy tough. I think I ended up catching 2 more stripers throughout the day, but like literally I don't know that I even got another bass bite. And I ended up weighing in a fish for like 1 pound, 3 ounces. So day one I had a 3-pounder. Day two I had 1 fish for 1 pound, 3 ounces. And I had a whopping 4 pounds, 3 ounces for my entire tournament. Guys, when you sign up to fish these events and you're going out there and you're going to practice, you know there's gonna be tough days. You know you might end up fishing a tough tournament where it's hard to get bit, but this was just on another level. This was probably the toughest mental tournament that I've ever experienced. It was every single day, no matter what you did, you could not figure out how to catch them. Guys did catch them. There were quality weights brought to the scales. It was tough for the majority of people. I'd say day two was decent for a lot of people, but I struggled, obviously, both days of the tournament. One of the most frustrating things about this tournament is that I don't even know exactly what to do different, what I could have done to get a more consistent bite. Now, obviously, I know what some of the better guys did. Big swim bait played a factor. And then other than that, I don't really know. I'm sure some guys were able to crank some fish. I'm sure some guys caught some jig fish. I'm sure there was a lot of other stuff that played a factor for the guys that did well. But for whatever reason, I could not find anything. I threw a swim bait, I threw a spinnerbait, I threw a chatterbait, I threw a crankbait, I threw everything that I could think of to get those fish to bite, and I just couldn't figure them out. And guys, I really want to thank GCI Outdoor, 6th Sense Fishing, Waterland Fishing Optics, and Duo-Molds for making it possible. Their support and their sponsorship made it possible for me to get out there, to fish that event, to make this content for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this series. I know there wasn't a ton of fish catches in this one, but it just shows the reality of when you go out there and fish these tournaments, you never know, you might just suck it up. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching all these videos, and the next one up is Clear Lake. I'm holding my breath for Clear Lake because you should be able to catch fish out there from what I understand. Never been there before, but super excited to get out there. It's one of the best fisheries in the country, so stay tuned. That's coming your way. Probably gonna start seeing some of those videos sometime in May. Looking forward to getting up to Northern California and fishing Clear Lake. I'll see you guys in the next video on the channel. Stay tuned. I got a lot more coming before we go to Clear Lake. See ya!